Thank you, Mr. Lester, for being a guest on my podcast, Andrew Legal Matters. Frederick Lester is a criminal defense and personal injury attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. He has a B.A. from Morgan State University, a Master of Law degree from Temple University, James E. Beasley School of Law, and a Juris Doctorate from Thomas M. Cooley Law School. The title of our talk will be The Future of Personal Injury Law Practices. Welcome, Mr. Frederick Lester, to Andrew Legal Matters.
Thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate it, and I love being able to talk about personal injury and just things that matter to everyday people, so I'm really excited about this show.
So why did you choose personal injury as a specialty?
I chose personal injury as a specialty because I wanted to focus on things that help everyday people. And, it sounds kind of morbid, but one of the first things that a professor of mine at Cooley said to my entering class was, write down what you want people to say about you at your funeral. And it sounds morbid, but it really gave me some insight that guides me through my career, and I've been doing this 11 years, is that I want people to say that I'm the type of person that really helps people. And being able to provide access to justice for everyday folks is what guides me and is so important. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose personal injury law, as well as criminal defense, is that these are areas that help people and it gives you direct contact with people and allows people to have access to the courtroom and to justice. And so that's why I've chose that's why I chose personal injury as well as criminal defense.
Okay. Now, personal injury, are you doing, I would say either, I know you said criminal defense, but are you also doing defense and plaintiff's work on the personal injury side?
Oh, absolutely. So I did, my background is I worked at Chase & Boscola, which is a mid-sized personal injury firm.
Yes.
And then I also, on the plaintiff side, and then I've also worked for, most recently, with the Baltimore City Public Schools. They have a litigation division in their general counsel's office, and we did a lot of premises liability defense work. And so my practice now is both civil plaintiff and defense, mostly plaintiff work. And so mostly I represent people who have causes of actions against either stores or other companies or school districts or what have you.
Interesting. Now, what changes have you seen in the profession since you've been practicing?
I started doing personal injury in 2011, and I noticed that back then it was easier to settle cases. It was easier to get your client a good result without having your client go through the burden of filing a claim in court and going through the whole discovery process, which can be costly depending on which court you file in. I think now, though, the insurance companies are becoming a little more difficult. They're not settling cases. They are, even if I file a demand, I think they're trying to make people go through litigation and have clients go through the court process and having, and it's harder for clients to be able to afford the expenses that it costs to bring a case through the civil courts and prosecute a claim. And so I think what they're doing now is they are playing a little more hardball. And I think that's some of the changes that have really been taking place within the last few years that I've been doing personal injury work.
Okay. Is there anything that you would say that keeps you up at night or causes you the greatest concern in terms of personal injury or even, like you said, criminal defense or even, like you said, the premises liability aspect?
I think the thing that keeps me up is making sure I do the best job for my client and make sure I've turned over every stone. I think that's always in the back of your head. It's making sure you've been able to do the best work that you can for your client. That keeps me up at night, especially when I have a client who I truly believe should recover, who I truly believe has done wrong, and you just know it. You in this business, you meet people, you can read people really quickly, and you get to know their stories. And somebody who should recover, who has been wrong, and representing that person, that keeps me up at night to make sure that I haven't missed anything, that I've left no stone unturned in prosecuting their claim.
And with you saying, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and with you saying that, it made me think, so do you have a process or system in place that kind of helps you to leave no stone unturned?
I think checklists are so important. It sounds elementary, But checklists are so important. And, I mean, doctors do it every day. Doctors have a list to make sure they go down everything. And I think that's important for attorneys because while, I've been doing this 11 years, and there's always something that I might miss and say, oh, shoot, I should have checked that. But when you have a checklist, you make sure that there's no stone unturned. And so that's what I do. And so any case that I've created different checklists that I have to make sure, okay, well, did you do this or did you do that? And it's just kind of a reminder that I use in every single case. And no case is alike. Every single case is unique, but it's sort of a core to make sure that you check X, Y, and Z when you're prosecuting a claim. If that makes it, does that make any sense at all?
Oh, most definitely.
I don't know if I conveyed that the way I really wanted to, but yeah, I mean, it's a mechanism because you know what you're doing, right? I know what I'm doing when I'm handling a case, but to have a checklist in the background, and have a checklist in your back pocket just to kind of bounce off of, to make sure you don't miss anything, is important.
I definitely agree with you in that regard because even as a paralegal, we have checklists as well. We want to make sure that we cover all bases and that, we double check, that we take our time and make sure that everything is done from A to Z because you don't want anything to come back if you can prevent it in the beginning when you take your time and, again, make sure that you've, dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's. So, yes, that definitely makes sense.
Right, because haven't you ever been in a situation where you've done something so long and so many times that you just know that this is what to do, but then when you ever take a step back, you're like, you know what, I did forget about that step.
Yes.
Because you just do it so much, you just think, oh, yeah, that's it. This is routine. This is, memorization. But then you realize when you take a step back, like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that step right there.
Exactly, and that's human nature, I think. Like you said, when you've been doing something for a while, sometimes you're like, wait a minute, and then you start second guessing yourself. You're like, wait, did I do da-da-da-da? And then you have to kind of step back and say, okay, let me just slow down a little bit. Let me make sure I go through my list again, even though I've done this several times and I've been doing it for a while, but let me just make sure.
Exactly, because, you might miss, you're not going to, when you're experiencing this, you're not going to miss the biggies.
That's
true.
But
a lot of times a case is won or lost in the details. In a detail, you can miss a detail, and it's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's just people make mistakes. They're human.
Yeah.
And so a checklist, when you have that checklist there and you can update it as you practice and as you learn, it's such a tool that helps you no matter how much experience you have.
I definitely agree with you. Now, branding and marketing are always challenging for any law firm. What are the trends in branding and marketing have you observed?
Oh, my goodness. The biggest thing right now is social media.
Yeah.
I am the worst at it. I would say I'm the worst at it. When people first started opening their law firms, it was, okay, you need to have a website. And a website, in my opinion, was more important than having a brick-and-mortar office building. You have to have a nice website, right? Mm-hmm. And now now you have Twitter and Instagram and Facebook fan pages and Snapchat now. And technology moves so fast that tomorrow there could be a whole other platform out there that we have to learn. And it's so important because you want to be able, especially doing this work, and as we talked about earlier, being able to help people. You need to be able to bring your practice, bring your specialty to everyday people. And so everyday people are on these social media platforms. And so you have to learn this stuff. And, I'm 36. And as I get older and older, when I'm like 56 or 66, technology is going to be, who knows what technology is going to be then. But it's going to be my job to stay current in it, which is going to be a challenge because those are going to be the platforms that, people are going to see what you have to offer. And so I think that's the biggest challenge is making sure people know about your business and know about them in platforms that people use and people see and staying current with that. And that's not always easy.
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, I've noticed over the last, several years, even when we do discovery requests, that question about do you have a Facebook page, do you have LinkedIn page, and all those things are important because a lot of people don't realize that, when you're involved in a lawsuit, whether it be personal injury or what have you, you have to be very careful about posting those kind of things on social media because those kind of questions will come up in litigation. So you're definitely right about that. Social media it's so big now, and it's like you definitely have to stay abreast with what's going on because if you don't, you'll get lost.
Yeah. And what's the first thing people do? The minute anybody goes through anything, they put it on social media.
Yes, sir.
And so as an attorney, you want to see what people say.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's a huge challenge, and I see people struggle with it. And actually, it's funny. I asked a buddy of mine, who I call an over-poster, because he posts everything on social media. I said, "Can you show me how to create a Facebook fan page and Twitter and all that good stuff?" And actually, I just received a Snapchat from an attorney friend of mine just now. But
really?
That's what people use. That's what people use. And so you have to stay on top of that. And you're always learning. You'll never not know enough. You're always learning in this business.
Agreed. Yes, sir. Well, with society becoming more and more litigious, do you see any changes coming down the pike with personal injury law reform?
I'm sorry, what was that? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was saying that with the changes in litigation, do you see any changes coming down the pike within personal injury law reform?
So I think the changes that I see is going to be, as people file more and more lawsuits, it's going to be damages caps. And what I mean is, the statutory cap on how much you can recover, no matter what your injuries are. There's going to be caps on it. Now, not necessarily for what's called special damages. So, if you have medical bills, you have damages that you can actually put a price on, usually you're not going to deal with a cap on that. However, non-economic damages, so pain and suffering, things like that you can't put a specific number on or a specific value. I feel like government's going to put more and more caps on those because people are filing more and more lawsuits and people are recovering more and more. And so as a way to save money, they're going to put statutory caps. That's what I think is going to continue to go, as well as I don't want to say court-ordered or court-encouraged mediation. Because as more and more lawsuits are filed because people are becoming more and more litigious, I don't think the courts want all these suits in court. And so I think that when you have court-ordered mediation, I think that's a mechanism that the courts will use to try to resolve things prior to going to trial, not necessarily filing suit, but going to trial. And so I think those are the two changes that might take place in the future. And I know it's already happening now. But I think
I've noticed that too. I've seen where even though cases are set on a trial calendar, but prior to that, obviously, there are more, like you say, either ADR or mediations that are required, which I think is a good thing because a lot of times cases end up settling at the midnight hour or the day before, if not the day of, or on the day of the trial. And so you're right. I've seen that happen more recently than I have in the past. Usually it's just set for trial and that's it.
Well, yeah, and I honestly, I think it's a good thing because it forces people. Like, for example, let's say I have somebody, I file a lawsuit on behalf of a client, and I have an insurance adjuster who's just playing hardball because I think that's one of the new trends is that they're playing more hardball. Well, it forces them to take another look at their case. It forces them to take another look at their case in light of what they have to prove in front of a jury, right? And so I think when you have a mediation, it's not just you against them. If you have a neutral third-party mediator, is that the word?
Yes.
Mediator?
I believe so.
But you have a neutral third party who can kind of say, look, these are the issues that I see. These are the challenges that you're going to have. These are your strengths. And so when you have, if you're in an argument with somebody back and forth, but you have a third referee, that person who's neutral, more likely than not, they're going to be listened to. And so I think it's helpful for the client when they are forced to go into mediation. Because, one, it saves time for the court, but, two, it makes an insurance adjuster and the attorney who's representing the insurance company to take a second look at their case, and I think that's important. Sometimes people need an extra set of eyes.
I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and doing this, I'm sure with you doing this, I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you heard attorneys come back and talk about it. I'm sure you've heard stories of people having some amounts of success after mediation where there was no hope before.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, because there are some mediators that have the power of persuasion and, like you said, being a neutral party, being able to go back and forth. And sometimes, even though they may not be able to get a case settled at mediation, they sometimes continue discussion after that day with a deadline. And to me, when they do that, there's a sign of hope that, okay, somebody's trying to come to their senses on the plaintiff side and the defense side as to trying to resolve a matter that can, ultimately result in more expense at trial if you can settle it now, especially, again, with a neutral party being able to look at the facts and really try to push the issue about, okay, then this is going to be the best result for your client, as well as, like you said, either whoever the parties are, could be the adjuster or, the plaintiff or the defendant, or just basically mutual parties as a whole.
Well, right. And a lot of these a lot of these mediators, they are either retired judges or attorneys who have experience in civil litigation and specifically personal injury. And so their opinions are what would be respected by both sides. And so, and they know that, like, for example, if I say the grass is green, for example, the other side might just think I'm advocating and trying to be persuasive. But when you have a neutral third party saying the same thing, they might listen a little more clear because this is a third party who has experience in the field and it's an opinion that they respect. And so, and I think it's helpful to clients too, because here's the thing: most of the clients, they want a speedy resolution to their claim. They don't want to go through the lengthy court process. They want to have a speedy resolution, and this is something that can help them get a speedy resolution to their claim. They
do. I definitely agree with you on that, and I've seen that over the years. I think that sometimes when claimants or plaintiffs get involved in a litigation, they think it's going to be a quick process, but then they also have to learn as they're going through the process, what it means when you actually file a lawsuit, as well as, the discovery phase and, things that they have to provide, whether it be medical records or, documentation or, And
it can be invasive.
It can be. It really can be, because sometimes people don't want to give up their personal information, whether it be a social security number or even their date of birth. They don't want you to look at their medical records to see what their history is. So
and that's
the
big thing. Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, I've done some depositions, and where my clients they had to disclose certain medical conditions that they've had that they weren't comfortable disclosing, and we've had to have those talks prior to depositions. And you're opening yourself up.
Yes.
And so so any future trends such as mediation, forced mediation, that can help clients resolve their claims, I think it's a good thing.
I agree with you. So what advice would you give students graduating from law school who want to specialize in personal injury law?
Oh my goodness, I love working with students. I've hired a lot of interns, and I've like when I used to be a PD, I've mentored a lot of students. Even to this day, I mentor a few students now. And the biggest thing right now, and I love your question, because the first thing I was going to say is you need to know, at this day and age, you need to know exactly what it is you want to do with yourself.
Yes.
Because you're always going to compete with somebody who has specifically tailored their resume to the career that they want. When I was in law school, you can just kind of float around and decide later what you want to do. But now, as an employer, people are looking for people who have the degree plus some experience. And so I think what people who want to specialize in personal injury right now, it's an absolute must, they must do internships. Because if they graduate law school and they don't have any internships under their belt, they're going to be interviewing and competing with somebody who has the same degree as they do, plus internships with either a PI firm or something related to that career. And so I think the biggest advice is that people who are in law school who want to become personal injury attorneys, they must either work with victims, people who are filing claims either through court, like doing clerkships with judges, or something intimately familiar with personal injury or civil litigation. It's an absolute must.
That's good information.
Because it's competitive. The legal field right now is so competitive. Mm-hmm. And I feel sad for folks because it's so competitive. It's not even funny. And you are competing against people who have already specifically tailored their resumes while they were in law school to that specific career. So if you know you want to do personal injury work, it's not enough to just go to your classes, make good grades, and that's it. You need to be able to make an employer know that, 1, you know how to talk to people and work with people. 2, you know how to empathize with people. 3, you know your way around a courtroom. because you're going to be most respected in criminal. You're going to be most respectable in personal injury work, criminal defense as well, but personal injury work when you try cases. So you need to you have to have that experience while you're in law school. You need to take advantage of that. And if that means volunteering and getting credit from school or a stipend from school and just volunteering somewhere, you need to build your resume. It's not enough to graduate law school and you still have just odds and end jobs on your resume. It's not enough. And that's just the harsh reality. But that's what I tell people, and it's because it's the truth. And I've hired people doing it. I mean, it's the truth. And it's sad, but it's the truth. So that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is that they absolutely need to gain that experience while they're in school.
Again, I was saying that that's good information because I always wondered, and I've asked a couple young attorneys, when they come into, different law firms that I worked in the past, did you specifically want to go into whether it be med mal or personal injury? And some of them have said that their particular practice group that they were working in was not necessarily what they had signed up for when they came on board. That's the position they've been pushed into. And I'm like, well, but what did you go to school for? And they'll either say, whether it be personal injury or, let's just say government or, general liability or what have you. And I always wonder, how did that work in terms of, them getting into the field that they really want to be in, as opposed to getting hired for a position as an attorney straight out of law school, and it's not exactly in the field or the particular practice area that you want to be practicing in.
It's important because you can burn out. Law is not, this is not an easy business. Even as Pearly, this is not easy business. Yeah, I know I'm sure you've experienced stress, and I'm sure
almost definitely.
Your attorneys are stressed. It's a high stress field. We're helping people who are in some of the most stressful times of their lives, right?
Right.
And so we gotta. I think that you have to, as a student, just you have to be your heart has to be in the right place, because no amount of money is going to make you stay for the long term in a practice area that you never really wanted to be in. Okay? If you're assigned to a certain practice group, and that sounds like a big law, like a lot of large law firms, like big law, will put you in a certain practice group. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy at the end of the day. You have to know what it is you want to do, what's going to make you happy, something that you can do, something that you can do for free, and something that you can do for free and just be just as happy. And so you have to find an area that is going to make you happy, something that you will be willing to do for free, like personal injury work and criminal defense work. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this, but I just love it. And some people just get assigned in the practice area, but you have to know, if you want long-term success in this stressful career and in your field, like personal injury law, you have to know that this is what you want to do, and test it out while you're in school.
That sounds pretty clear, and you sound very passionate about what you do.
Yeah, and so even if, even like students who are going to school full-time, where, they have a full caseload and they're going to school during the day, there's a lot of attorneys who will allow you to work remotely and just work on some research projects. So you can do that on a night, or you can do it on a weekend and just, write a motion or do some research from home. You can do something somewhere where you can build connections with people in the field that you want to work in. And then during the summertime, when students are on break, you need to know where you want to practice and where you want to take the bar exam and start making connections in that community. Because I guarantee you, most of the jobs you will get is not going to be from a posting. It's from connections and who you network with and who you know. And so I think that's like the most important thing for law students these days, the most important thing.
Okay. Any last thoughts or comments?
I think that personal injury is anyone who's interested in going to personal injury work. I think it's one of the most noble things you can do, because you are really you don't realize while you're a law student and while you're an attorney or a paralegal or anybody in this profession, we work with lawyers and legal professionals every single day, and so we feel like we just know everybody and that so many people are in this profession. But on the grand scale of things, there's not a lot of people who know lawyers. There's not a lot of people who know anyone connected to the law. And so I feel like anyone who wants to work in a field that you're impacting people and helping people, everyday people, I think it's the most noble thing they can do. I think they should absolutely do it, so long as they're doing it for the right reason, which is helping people. And so I feel like if if any of your listeners are interested in personal injury law and they're interested in personal injury law for the right reasons, I think they should absolutely go for it. I think they'll be tremendously happy. And I'll be happy to talk with anybody. You have my information. I'll be happy to mentor or talk with anybody who's interested in a career in helping people.
Well, that sounds great. I'll definitely be sure to keep that in mind. Now, Mr. Lester, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you?
Oh, so you can reach me directly at my firm phone number is 301-290-1900, and that will take you directly to me or my assistant. Or you can email me. Email is the best way because I'm in court quite often. So email is the best way to get me. And my email is fredlester@lesterfirm.com. And so if you email me, even if I'm in court, I can email you back. And anybody who's in the D.C. metropolitan area, I've been more than happy to meet up for coffee, talk shop, give advice. I'm more than happy, and I do that all the time. And it makes me happy. And I feel like what my mentor told me before he passed away was make sure you give back. And I'm doing the same thing that my mentor did with me. And so if anyone wants to email me or call me directly, I'll be more than happy to discuss anything with them.
That's great advice. Well, Mr. Lester, I definitely appreciate you being a guest on Andrew Legal Matters.
Well, I thank you for inviting me. I was so nervous. I've never done this before.
Well, you did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. I really do appreciate that.
You are so